Welcome to this explainer. I want you to imagine, just for a second, stepping out of the daylight and walking down into the dark, incredibly dusty archives of government secrets. Just picture yourself walking down these endless rows of cold steel cabinets, pulling out a manila folder, blowing off the dust, and discovering a government document so disturbing that it was purposefully hidden from the public for decades. And not because it outlined a conventional war or contained nuclear launch codes, but because officials at the highest possible levels believed you simply weren't ready to know what had happened. Today, we're going to put on our investigative journalist hats and dig into a curated dossier of some of the world's most mysterious government files that stayed buried for generations. Because, as you'll see, sometimes the truth is way stranger than any conspiracy theory. Okay, let's dive right into this. What if the truth was deemed too disturbing for you to know? That question really sets the stakes for everything we're about to uncover today. We aren't just talking about a couple of misplaced memos. We are talking about thousands upon thousands of pages purposefully locked away, witnesses silenced, entire chunks of history deliberately blacked out with thick ink. And it forces us to ask, well, why? Why hide it? The simple answer we find buried in these archives is that the people in charge genuinely felt the reality of these events would just be too much for everyday citizens to handle.
Before we crack open our first case file, let's get our terminology straight. Classified or redacted simply refers to information that's officially declared secret. But you have to understand, when researchers finally get their hands on these archives, they don't get clean, easy-to-read pages. No, they get documents heavily censored with these massive, thick black bars. Names, dates, sometimes entire paragraphs are completely scrubbed out. Honestly, reading these heavily censored files feels a whole lot more like reading the plot of a gripping espionage thriller than standard government paperwork.
Now, every government keeps classified documents, and they all state their official reasons for doing so. Usually, they'll tell you it's about protecting intelligence sources, safeguarding highly advanced military tech, or preventing the leak of sensitive diplomatic information. And sure, some of these stay secret for a few years, others for generations. But here is where the journalist in me gets really excited. Occasionally, declassification laws force these vaults open. And when they do, we don't just find boring diplomatic cables. We uncover military projects that had never been publicly acknowledged, bizarre aerial anomalies, and straight-up Cold War mind control research. So let's pull out our very first dossier, Case File 01, Project MKUltra. Now, what's really fascinating about this timeline of events is the sheer scale of the cover-up. Operated directly by the CIA during the height of the Cold War, MKUltra was a highly experimental, incredibly dark project. The government was literally trying to figure out if human behavior and memory could be actively controlled through drugs, hypnosis, and some extreme psychological techniques. Back in the 1950s and 60s, these experiments were in full swing. Then, in the 1970s, there was this massive, intentional destruction of the primary project records. They literally tried to wipe it from history completely. But the entire program was exposed anyway, all because of a huge administrative error. A small collection of the project's financial records survived simply because they were stored in a totally different archive. It was a complete accident that these surviving receipts and ledgers eventually brought this whole shadow operation out into the light. And once those financial records leaked, the fallout was absolutely immense. Subsequent investigations by the US Congress officially confirmed the reality of these completely unethical experiments. It became one of the most controversial intelligence operations ever revealed. But here's the chilling part. Because so many of those original files were successfully and permanently destroyed back in the 70s, historians agree today that parts of the full story may just never be known. We have the confirmation, yes, but the complete truth was burned and lost to time.
All right, let's grab the next file in our dossier, shifting our investigation from psychological experiments to the skies above us. Case File 02, Unidentified Objects. For decades, military personnel, commercial pilots, and highly trained radar operators documented some incredibly unusual sightings in the air. Governments in several countries, including the US and the UK, quietly investigated these incidents, generating thousands of pages of classified files that were eventually brought to light. And this brilliantly illustrates the divide between Hollywood myths and hard journalistic reality. You see, the public naturally assumes declassified UFO files mean undeniable proof of extraterrestrial life, right? Confirmed aliens. But the actual declassified files show something much more grounded, though arguably just as fascinating. They document real, verified witness interviews, highly unusual radar data that couldn't be explained, and completely serious official efforts by the military to figure out what was flying around up there. It wasn't about little green men, it was a serious national security analysis. Now, ultimately, some of these cases were eventually explained by perfectly mundane things, but a lot of them were not. Some incidents remain completely unresolved today simply because there was never enough hard evidence to identify the objects with any real certainty. The true suspense, the real mystery here, doesn't lie in confirmed aliens. It lies in those lingering, unanswered questions documented by our own military. The fact that the government itself had to admit they could not fully explain what was flying in their airspace. Okay, I'm gonna pull out the third and, honestly, perhaps the most surprising file in our stack today, Case File 03, Operation Northwoods. If you want a masterclass in exactly how far military strategy was willing to go during the extreme tensions of the Cold War, this declassified document is it. It pulls us deep into the clandestine, smoke-filled halls of 1962 military power. So the crucial point is this. In 1962, senior military officials literally drafted proposals suggesting staged incidents. Step 1 was to create false flag events. Step 2 was to use these completely hypothetical, manufactured scenarios to manipulate public opinion, all to ultimately justify military action against Cuba. These were extraordinary, extreme proposals that were seriously discussed inside top government institutions. But it is absolutely vital to read this quote directly from the historical record. The plans were never approved by President John F. Kennedy and were never carried out. These documents sat classified for decades before becoming public. And when they did, they served as a stark reminder to historians and journalists alike. Classified files very often reveal proposed plans, not necessarily actions. It shows the extreme lengths strategists will go to on paper, even if those ideas are ultimately flat out rejected by the commander-in-chief. Let's step back from these specific cases for a moment and look at the bigger picture. Let's look at the final vault. What is still hidden? Look, every single year, governments all over the world declassify thousands upon thousands of documents. A lot of what gets released is just totally routine information. But mixed in there are files that literally rewrite history. They prove that our past is far more complex than we initially knew. And yet, there are undoubtedly countless files that remain completely sealed today. Behind closed doors right now, there are files containing details on ongoing intelligence operations, complex diplomatic histories, highly advanced military technology, and vital national security data. Whether they'll ever be released to the public and what they might reveal if they are, well, that remains completely unknown. Which brings us to our final lingering thought for this explainer. If MKUltra, unexplained radar anomalies, and Operation Northwoods are the files they actually let us see, what is still covered in thick black ink? History isn't just printed cleanly in textbooks, you know. Often, it's hidden inside locked, dusty archives, stamped with the word classified, just waiting for the day someone finally opens the folder. I really hope this investigation made you question just how much of our history is still waiting in the shadows to be uncovered. Keep questioning, keep investigating, and I'll see